hastily put together as we're preparing for elections, so it's a reminder to everyone in Somerville to please utilize mail-in voting as election season is once again upon us. So again, I want to thank you for coming. Today, City of Somerville, its Board of Health, my administration announced that Phase 3, certain segments of Phase 3 business reopening in Somerville will be delayed until at least August 3rd. And we did so, and do so out of an abundance of caution. One, we want to ensure that our community, everyone in our community, remains healthy and safe during this health crisis and emergency, and that any reopening is sustainable. But we did so in the same fashion we've done in approaching phases 1 and 2, informed by data, by health expertise, and guided by those 2 stars. In the metro region, we've seen case numbers ticking up slightly, and in Somerville, over the last week alone, we've seen 15 new positive cases, whereas for the prior few weeks, we were around 5. We'd either flattened or they've gone down. And we need to make sure that's not a trend. Maybe it's some sort of anomaly, but we know from the very brief history of this pandemic, small numbers can flash into big ones on a dime. And we do so while being vigilant, truly vigilant, understand what's happening in the rest of the country. We've certainly seen these stories in Florida and Texas, Arizona, and other southern states. California should be a warning sign for us. As you recall, when we were first facing this pandemic, and the first cases landed in the United States out west, and we wondered if they would come here or when, and they came. It came with a vengeance. California was 4 to 5 weeks ahead of Massachusetts in terms of flattening out the curve and reopening, and you've seen and heard Governor Newsom has now rolled back in a very significant way the reopening in more than 30 counties. So we're very concerned in Somerville because we are the most densely populated city in New England. We're more than 80,000 people, only 4.1 square miles. We have many vulnerable populations, working class families, essential workers, immigrants, and we know this virus has been particularly harsh on Black, brown Americans, immigrants, our elderly, our essential workers. And we've lost 34 people, 34 souls in our community. The Commonwealth has lost more than 8,000, and 137,000 plus people have died in the United States. Yesterday was a historic day for the United States, a very tragic one. More than 77,000, a new record, cases. 77,000 new confirmed cases. And we know from all the experts, you can take those numbers and multiply them by 10, and that's probably the level of infection in one day. And almost 1,000 people, almost 1,000 confirmed deaths in one day. It's trending in the wrong direction. And to be truly vigilant, we must pay respect to those numbers and be very cautious. We've done a great job here in the Commonwealth, flattening out the curve. But remember, we still lost thousands of people from our community, loved ones, members of our families, our neighborhoods. The governor's administration has done some really good things on the reopenings, and they should be credited a lot for their leadership and collaboration and working together to make sure our hospital system maintains its capacity, especially during the surge. Now that we've done that, we can either spike the football of victory, or we can double down on those efforts and make sure we knock any resurgence down before it heeds and shows itself in any one of our communities. That's why Somerville is doing what it's doing now. We do this out of an abundance of caution. We understand, truly and acutely aware that this is hard on businesses. It's hard on them financially, and we're very aware, I'm aware, some of them may not open up again. But there's no one-to-one trade-off between a dollar and someone's life or blood. We cannot have a sustained opening of our economy, a recovery of our economy, without a healthy society. And that's, again, why we're doing it today. To that extent, we'll continue to work with those businesses like we did in phase 1 with personal service businesses, in phase 2 at restaurants. In each case, representatives and business owners and operators advocated to the city for higher standards of safety and measures to be put in place because they understand that there's an inherent compact between any business, their workers, and their customers, and the community at large. Businesses won't recover unless there's total consumer confidence. Consumer confidence is still railing because people don't know if it's safe to go back to that activity. So not only do we want to keep our community safe, we want to make sure when those businesses open up, they're not forced to shut back down again. And if we're faced with a resurgence to any level like we faced in the initial surge, we know what's going to happen. We'll have to shut down not only our cities, but broad swaths of our Commonwealth and our economy, and that will certainly not lend itself to a sustainable recovery. So for now until August 3rd, we'll continue to be vigilant. We'll analyze our local and regional data. We'll pay attention to national trends, what's happening in other states. We'll rely on the expertise of epidemiologists and other health experts, and we'll continue to engage the community and be very ethical and honest with the people we serve about what we're doing and why we're doing it and what the potential risks are. So with that, I'll take any questions. So we know the indoor activities are the riskiest of activities. There's the highest level of risk of transmission of the virus from person to person. That's from all the health experts. What we've actually heard, and even my team, my administration heard from representatives of those businesses, they come from three buckets. People who do not want to open because they and their workers are concerned, and we heard this in phase 1 and phase 2. Those who would like to open but understand and appreciate a more cautious approach, and those who are concerned about, understandably, the financial impacts. So how we're approaching phase 3, like we did phase 1 and 2, is to understand when we do open up, what are the guidelines that have to be put in place to ensure safety. And like phase 1 and 2, there'll be enhanced guidelines. In many cases, that comes right from the business community themselves. 2, what are the resources the city can provide you in your business? And we did this 1 and 2, either financial. We had a $1 million small business COVID relief fund we established. We've dispersed most of that money. And we're trying to strategize for phase 2 and prioritize those businesses that might take a little bit longer than we did in phase 1 and 2 to open, not know when they're going to open, and also look at what are other strategies the city can implement to help you out. For example, we work closely with our restaurants to reclaim a lot of the public realm and way. If you go in Davis Square, you see much of Elm Street blocked off for outdoor seating. We got rid of a lot of regulatory bureaucratic red tape so they can get approvals for outdoor, not just outdoor seating, but service of alcohol. Similarly, in the call this morning, we posed the idea to fitness centers and clubs about utilizing public space to do outdoor training and physical fitness. There's a benefit of that, not only the business, if we can do it safely, the public gets out, they get to move more, be healthier, they relieve the stress, and obviously the emotional trauma that's come from this crisis as well. So what we say to them is, we are acutely aware of that, we understand, and that issue came up today, and we are working with them now and examining the possibility of doing that. Yeah, we haven't put this off until now. We've been closely understanding that these businesses hadn't opened up yet, and we understand that they'd be addressed in phase 3. We've taken the same approach we've done in phase 1 and 2. That's to be informed, to analyze the state's guidelines. In many cases, the Commonwealth issues their guidelines for reopening right before it happens. And that doesn't give a municipality a lot of time. But we, along the way, have been watching data. We have been analyzing data. In Somerville, in the last week alone, there have been 15 confirmed positive cases. We don't know if that's an anomaly. Is that a reporting correction? Is that a sign of something bigger to come? And my responsibility, our collective responsibility, to make sure that number doesn't flash to something higher. And we've seen that happen all over the country and here in the Commonwealth. And it will make a big difference, because if we can ensure that we continue back on our trend where we were flattened or going downward in terms of our numbers, then people have confidence in our decision. But if we just move forward, and the public sees us moving forward without fully vetting out what that data means, I don't think we're building up any confidence. We're not helping these businesses, and we're certainly putting the public at risk if there's something greater than the 15 that's there. Yeah. Well, they made a decision that they felt is right, but I will say I respect that, because I am frustrated that we have 351 different plans for the 351 cities and towns. And I said before, we need a uniform strategy from the Commonwealth. We get guidelines, but no one's driving those guidelines. We get guidance, but a lot of it relies on personal and your own individual compliance. And we've seen an erosion of that compliance in every city and town around the Commonwealth. Now, we've done a great job. We paid in inconvenience, we paid in disruption in our lives, our kids' education, and in people's lives. Did we do that to rush open activities like casinos and other activities that pose a higher risk of transmission? When our focus is, what are we doing to make sure, if possible, if we can even do it in a safe way, we can open up schools and get those families back to work and truly bolster our economy. And we don't have a plan around that yet. And much like the question you just brought up, 351 cities and towns and school districts it's charged on them to come up with a plan to submit to the Commonwealth. But we can't move forward unless we're truly vigilant. And in the Commonwealth, the governing administration has cut back, retracted on the contact tracing. All right? We don't have contact tracing set up at a level necessary to truly measure on a real-time basis how the pandemic is evolving and changing. It's flattened out. What does the resurgence look like? Is it as close or worse than the first surge? We really don't know how it's reacting right now. Testing is now slowing down because testing supplies, understandably, are being diverted to other states around the country that are going through the worst right now. But access to supplies to support testing, like reagents, swabs, and other needs, are slowing as well, too, causing a delay in testing. So it's difficult. On that comment, the data you see now, remember, positive tests are a snapshot of what happened 2 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago. And a lot of those tests are going slower, a schedule slower than desired because we don't have as much access to supply as we did even a month ago or a few weeks ago. So I'd submit it's a greater charge and cost to us to say, be vigilant, be truly vigilant, pause. But you can't be vigilant without all the other necessary devices to surveil what is happening with the disease. I'm concerned to moving too fast in phase 3. Yeah, because our goal should not be to just move in phase 3. Our goal should be to try to get schools open if possible. The other thing the state could absolutely do right now and should be doing is masks, face coverings. All the experts say now's when you double down on what you've done that has brought you success. You don't cut back. And even though Somerville was the first city to have a mandatory facial covering order, I mean, we still see erosion of that. Going back to your point, it can't be one or a few communities out of the 351. We need a state-led, coordinated strategy. We've seen the failures in this country without a national strategy to respond to the pandemic or even a national strategy or ability to test. In the Commonwealth, again, the governor's team had done a good job to ramp a lot of that up to make up for that deficiency. But we're not anywhere near we should be on testing and even on masks. I go around and drive around the Commonwealth in New England, and it's unbelievable. If you go 1 or 2 towns over, you'll struggle to find anyone with a face covering. And we know that's our best, one of the best tools, easiest implementable tools we have to knock down the resurgence. So, I've had them on a weekly basis, almost a weekly basis. We had, up until now, weekly calls with the Lieutenant Governor, members of the administration. I chair the Metropolitan Mayors Coalition. Myself and other mayors and local leaders around the Commonwealth have engaged the governor, as at times the governor himself. And most recently, a week ago, we talked about why not institute statewide masks right now, double down on what we're doing. Concerns about phase 3. Look, I mean, the governor consulted Boston. Boston delayed by a week. Because concerns of Boston's density and makeup of the communities. I don't know if you looked out my window, but I'm close to downtown Boston. Right now, you are the most of Boston. Are we not dense? We're more than 80,000 people per square mile. Do we not have the same essential workers to ride that same transit system? So I don't know what the plan is. So we've had conversations, and we've expressed this to the governor, and we want collective success. At the end of the day, I don't want people to get sick, and we don't want anyone to die. And if that continues to happen, any conversations around having a recovery of our economy are really misled and misinformed because it's not going to happen. It poses a lot of discretion on outdoors when it shouldn't be. Okay, we were the first to require it outdoors no matter what. We've had to align that most recently with the governors because you have an erosion over time. One city cannot, one town cannot hold off human, personal behavior on its own. You can only do so for a certain amount of time. But again, the challenge is you take you walk a few blocks in either direction. You're in another community. You're in Cambridge. You're in Medford. You're in Boston. And much like we cannot hold off what's happening in the rest of America from coming to Massachusetts and New England, it's going to be extremely difficult to rely on personal responsibility, although we have that. And I wish we were a more selfless society. We have that. If we could all do some simple things, wear a face covering, stay 6 feet apart, washing hands religiously, we knock this thing down. Yeah, what I've advocated for is, right, it should be a statewide approach to finding and requiring masks in the time being. It's difficult, it's summer, it's warm, but it's necessary. And again, my concern, and I think I share this concern of a lot of people, is, yeah, we are rushing some things in phase 3. Some things in phase 3 we are going to allow in Somerville, increased capacity in grocery stores, some of the other outdoor recreational activities and so forth. No indoor gyms, no, nothing on the indoors. No entertainment venues, there it is, fitness, health clubs, gyms at this time. And when the public gatherings will stay at the 10 that we had. Sure. Right. It's possible. We're going to spend the next 14 days especially gearing down and at our numbers here locally, where they're trending and the positive cases, and we have a heavy push to get people tested, and also reconciling them against what's happening across the region and looking, not ignoring what's happening around the country. We have to take a hard look at that. Again, we're working right now on a plan to try to get our schools open. We have university partners like Tufts University who've done an incredible job and shown great leadership bringing students into their campus. We're just weeks away from that, if it can happen. And if we don't do this right now, that's all in jeopardy. And if we don't do this right now, at this moment, everything we do matters. And it matters on how many people continue to become ill, and it matters how many people die. And if that matters to us, then we'll take a harder look at this and slow some of these activities down and just take the time to truly be vigilant and measure every action we had. So, well, I thank you for coming out today. Appreciate it. Stay safe.